Assalamu alaikum and salam to everyone. I'd like to give you all a warm welcome for attending, and we really appreciate you making an effort to attend this event. And I'd like to welcome our first guest. Her name is Ima Manzoor. She's a 17-year-old senior in Staten Island Tech. She enjoys many things, which on top of the list is Allah and learning about Allah. And Ima doesn't know what she wants to do with her life yet for now, inshallah, but she's happy trying to be an inspiring author, graduating high school and being good to people around her. So please give a warm welcome to Ima.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So I'm going to be reciting 2 spoken words. The first of which is in relation to all the things happening around in our society and how I feel it is our duty as human beings, the Muslims and people in general, to respond to it. And then my second spoken word will just be about life. I'm sorry, it's really good.
Oh, it just popped. That was me. I like this microphone.
Testing. Okay, so this one's called Within. I remember the night I saw on the news Trayvon Martin was killed and by a cop too. I remember the next day at school we were betrayed, everyone said, played like fools. I remember the first time I was called a terrorist. I was in 6th grade, I didn't know what to make of it. All I knew was that I couldn't kill a fly, so there's no way I could want people to die. Of all the injustices, I've only said 2, but that's because I believe in not just fixing the issues, but their roots of all the problems in the world. The ones that most plague me lay in the hypocrisy of our own people and our constant defaming. The fact that a woman created by Allah can be compared to a candy in a wrapper, it just never ceases to amaze me. The fact that men can't get married to a woman they love because they're not wealthy enough, it drives me crazy. The fact that we confuse culture and religion ourselves and then get mad at others for doing the same thing. Let's stop for a moment and remember depression is a real disease that is not just a result of a lacking deen, that a mind hurting is a hard reality, but all we seem to do is have a lack of empathy. And don't even get me started on the bigotry that we seem to have against our brothers and sisters of the same deen. One God, one soul, one mind. We've forgotten how we're people of the same kind. What made Islam so perfect wasn't just that there's one God, it's that Islam broke down every social wall, and those social walls crumbled, made the Quraysh so against it. It wasn't that they actually believed in the idols they worshipped. So yes, they told me I need to keep my head down, that the only way to survive is to join the crowd, but joining a crowd walking off a cliff won't save me. Rather, it's the belief in Allah's promises that's ever so amazing. And yes, they told me I need to yell and scream, that I need to raise awareness by talking about my deen, but to that my response is something very basic. Actions speak louder than words. Let me practice before I teach it. Don't forget, Allah is Al-Wali. He's always watching no matter how much there is cruelty. Now, I'm not saying don't make a step for change. All I'm saying is the first thing He's going to ask us in our graves is if we prayed. Why get mad at a stranger profiling us blindly when we're the ones who don't treat our own mothers kindly? Let's remember the men who gave up fighting a war because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him his mother back home was worth more. Every day the oppressors oppress, mental health issues need to be stressed. Society swims in bigotry, students have anxiety, lives are taken, children abusers, sexism, rape culture, and bad water too every day. I hear Syria and Palestine, and I pray that inshallah one day they can be fine every day. I hear the cries of the abused people to whom the world is blind every day. I'm driven insane because there's so many issues I don't even know where to begin every day. I remember change starts from within. Let's start off simple, be kind to ourselves and our human kin. To create a movement, we don't need to move 100 miles. It's as easy as a sincere smile, don't you know? Smiles are contagious. The effect one smile has is simply outrageous. There's a reason smiles are a charity, because they help fill everyone's hearts with peace and clarity. We often strive to follow others' lights. We don't even realize they only reflect our souls that shine bright. Don't doubt ourselves, be who we are. Once we are just to ourselves, the world will follow our cause. And then, let's take it a step further. Treat our family members right, and there's another route that's being cut. And let's remember every Muslim as our brother and sister. We've got a big family to care for. And then let's not forget, we were all made from clay. That means we've got fam that we won't even see one day. And at last, let's take it back a few and remember, it all started with a La ilaha illallah and an Allahu Akbar. That's the first one.
Thank you so much. I hope you're all enjoying this so far. So before we carry on, I think first of all it's really important to know that with spoken word poetry, how many of us know what spoken word poetry is? Right, you know. Okay, Brother Brian, he knows. Janelle. Okay, perfect. So spoken word poetry is a form of art which is kind of like speaking, but it's through poetry. It's really in the words with spoken word poetry. And what we do is there's a culture of whenever you really enjoy a line, you click. Okay, can everyone practice the clicking? Okay, so whenever she drops a line, you literally just click to show your encouragement. If she forgets a line, you click. If you don't like a line, you click. No, you don't. But it's all about pushing the person to feel inspired, and she literally feeds up your energy. Okay, so we really, really need your your enthusiasm. We want you to feel active. We want you to feel like as if she's literally dropping something amazing right now. Okay.
This one's called Days, and it's sort of more of a personal remembrance of my life and how it's gone by and everything. So it's kind of like an open letter to God. So whenever I say Allah, that's like, God. I'll start now. It's been 6,463 days since my heart started beating. It's so natural by now I forget that one day my pulse will stop. 6,463 days my lungs have been breathing in. While my breath has escaped me at some moments, it's always come back to me. So forgive me when I forget that one day it won't return. The angel of death is above me. I know I shouldn't be so forgetful, but it's so much more comforting to ignore the burning heat creeping up on me in favor of the cool, shiny, bright light. Elohim, my friend, giver of life, I've forgotten how I die every single night. I've forgotten how my soul goes up and comes back down. They say I only live once. They forget my soul exists even if my body is in the ground. For it is not the body that has a soul, but the soul that has a body. And again, I know that's something I forget way too often. I was raised as a person trying to make my body as somebody, not stress the priority of getting ready for an eternal party. I won't make the causer of death. I know you're the reason for my every breath, but why can't that sink into me? It's as though my very lungs are the ones suffocating me. Al-Khabir. My dad once told me, 99 doors are closed, I've still got one open. Tomorrow's a new day, rise and shine. It seems that simple in everyone's eyes. Al-Hakim, you're the wise. It's not that easy that once the heart cries, it's as though part of you dies. Al-Raqib, the watchful, my life's been a charade for 17 years of 365 days. All I've done is wake up day to day, the same routine, the same old game, and I'm sorry. Al-Wadud, the loving one, there are days when my love for you outshines the core of the sun, and the magnitudes of gratitude I have for you reach such impossible to count latitudes. Even the roaring waves quiet to hear the words from my heart to you. Those days I see nature and I love its creator. I see hope and I love its sustainer. I see pain and I love its healer. I see injustice and I love the protector. I see love. I remember this is why I'm a believer. And Allah, my friend, there are days where my pain is great, where the world seems to be holding me in chains. No matter how much I yell and I scream, the world tears me apart and then sews me back into its seams. Those days, my existence is a cage and my only reprieve is going back to you, so I pray, but sometimes that's not enough. My heart still has the burden of Atlas as he's bearing the earth those times. I feel you send the wind to whisper to my heart from my ear, I love you. Fear not, I am near. And Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, there are days where I forget my deen. I ignore the tick of the clock as it counts, knowing that's one less second I have to add to my good deeds account. It's because I'm careless, I won't deny you've given me the signs. I've chosen to be blind. All I ask is that those days you show me mercy, for it is you who told me your mercy outweighs me. So dear God, hold tight to my heart, for if you let it be, my world will fall apart, guaranteed. And while my eyes may say thank you for that, I'm afraid my heart is blind, so I'll see the surface of the world, but not have the depth of a dime. My heart will fall and rise like the tides many times. I understand the way the waves reach to the shore, only to be pulled back. The way a child reaches to the moon to hold it, only to fall short. I'm aware that is life, but each wave takes away sands of old grain. The way in a child's mind, even if the moon can't be held in their hands, it can be held in their eyes. I will rise. That is also life. Allah, you told me my pain is there to cleanse my heart, that my heart is a stone that needs pressure to become art, that I must be shattered and put in intense heat in order to become a beautiful masterpiece. And so, when the rug is swept out from under my feet, let me use that momentum to fly, not to flee. And when my knees ache and my back strains, give me strength to push forward with love for the one with 99 names. Let me feel in my heart the truth, the one I live for has guided me and will continue to do so too. I need not believe in myself, but in my faith in him. And on my last day, I will welcome the angel of death, having lived my life as an old friend.
Aisha, I know who I'm going to introduce. Yeah, our next guest is Aber Kawas. She graduated in 2004 from the City College of New York International Studies Program, concentration Latin American Studies. Aber has worked with various organizations such as CARE New York, Urban Justice Center Street Vendor Project, and is now the youth leader organizer at the Arab American Association of New York. She hopes through her works and studies to bring together several ethnic, religious communities in the future to advocate in unity against social injustices. Today she's going to be speaking about implementing justice in context we live in now in the US. Please give a warm welcome to Aber.
Alright, assalamu alaikum everyone. May peace and blessings be upon all of you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I start with the name of God. Alright, Bismillah. So, today we're talking about the topic of being the torchbearers. Right? Us holding on to this legacy, a legacy that has come down to us through Islam. And today we're going to talk about where does this legacy come from? What is this legacy? And how are we going to enact this legacy in society today? So I'm going to first start off with the idea of if we are torchbearers of a legacy, what is that legacy to us as a Muslim community? And really, it's as simple as looking at the journey of Islam and what Islam brings to this world. And we believe that, as Muslims, that we follow the Quran and we follow the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and that he was the last messenger on this earth from God. And we believe in the legacy and in the message of all of the messengers that came before Muhammad and that they were prophets of God. So we believe in Moses and Jesus, right? Musa and Isa, and Abraham, Ibrahim, and we believe that throughout time they have brought down the word of God, and now it's up to us to uphold that. And the Prophet ﷺ was the last messenger, and when I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm just saying peace be upon him for anyone who doesn't know Arabic, in case I forget to correct myself. Also, if at any point throughout this speech I say something in Arabic and y'all don't know what I'm saying, just like raise your hand and be like, what's up? Okay. So, we believe in this legacy. So first of all, the legacy that we believe the prophets brought down is, yes, of bringing down religion, right? But it was not just we bring down religion on this earth. But if you go through the stories in the Quran, and almost 1/3 of the Quran is just stories, literally. And like, actually the longest story, or the most, the prophet that's mentioned the most is the story of Moses, the story of Musa. There is a motif that runs throughout all of these stories of the prophets. And that motif is that there was some sort of corruption on this earth because people were not living with just values. So there's a story in the Quran of the people of Midian who were business people and they used to cheat people. Or, you know, the longest story, right? The story of Musa or Moses, that there was Pharaoh, or we call him in the Quran Fir'aun, who had a class of slaves who literally used Bani Israel and racialized them and used them as a class of slaves and called himself God and said that I have the power to abuse and use these people because I am divine and they are not. And the message of Musa was saying, no, you're not divine, right? And that's really what the message that all of the prophets bring to this earth is the message that when you believe in God, when you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means that all of these worldly means of power, whether that is your status in society, your class, whether that is racial, whether that is economic, what you own, all of this is meaningless when you know that God is the ultimate creator and that you cannot have any power over God. And so therefore you don't have power over people, you don't have power over land, you don't have power over anything because this all belongs to God. And that's the message. And when you embrace this message, that generally means that you must remove corruptness or injustice from this earth, because what injustice is people abusing the power that they perceive to have, or sometimes even create for themselves on this earth. And that message of, no, you cannot use this power, you cannot hold this power over people. In fact, God has this power and you just live to serve God, and that means to be good to people, and that means you must all be equal. Then that shakes up systems. That is a very, 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 anti-system message that is coming down with Islam, that comes down with the legacy of all of the prophets. So this is our legacy. And then there's the Prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was the final messenger. And we believe that the story of the Seerah, and when I say Seerah, that is basically the story of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, of the trajectory of his life, and then of all of the lives of the people around him. The story of the Seerah is a microcosm of this idea of social transformation. It is the story of a society that was completely transformed through the message of the Prophet ﷺ, and then through the organization of the people that he was around, through the organization of the companions, and through this change. So we know in the Seerah, the first thing you learn is you learn about Mecca, and the state of Mecca, and the state of the Quraysh, and the fact that the Quraysh they were the tribe who ruled Mecca, were this tribe who had power for years and years and years because of their lineage, because of their name, right? And in Mecca, there were certain families who held lineage and powerful lineage, and there were people who did not. And in Mecca, there were certain people who were benefiting from the trade that was coming in to this society, and there were certain people who were not. And there were slaves and there were masters. And the first message of the Prophet ﷺ was that you are all equal in the eyes of God, and you will only be judged not for your lineage or your family or your wealth, but you will only be judged for your goodness, for your principles, for your values, and for how you actually enact those values on this earth. So how do you act this out? How you treat other people. So it's on your beliefs and how you actually manifest your beliefs. Therefore, it don't matter if you own this household, and it don't matter if you come from this family. When you stand in prayer, you stand side by side. And it doesn't matter if you're the master or the slave. You stand side by side, and you have to pray and submit yourself to God. And that shook up society. And for years and years, when the Prophet ﷺ gave his message, the first initial wave was a wave of oppression and repression of this message, and torture of the people, and most of the people who were targeted during this time were the slaves, were the poor, were the oppressed. And what actually removed the Muslims from this situation was the Sahaba, or the companions, who had status in society and who had wealth in society, actually had to sacrifice their own privileges and their own status that they held to support their brothers and sisters. Because now there was this idea that we are this human body, and that we are, in humanity, we are brothers and sisters in humanity, we are brothers and sisters in Islam, and therefore we must serve each other. And throughout the organization of these people and throughout the support that they gave to one another, they were able to come from the weakest state of society, and as basically the underdogs, the people who were resisting the society that had been there for hundreds of years, and were able to overthrow that, and were able to recreate a society, right, where they started in Medina, and then they actually went over to be able to reconcile with the people of Mecca at the end, where the society had now completely transformed. And everybody was respected based off of their character rather than all of these worldly ideas. And so this is the legacy. And this is the Sirah. If you read the Sirah, this is the story of the Sirah. It just happens over a long period of time, and there's lots of stories in between, right? And now we have to uphold this legacy. And the responsibility is no longer on the prophets who are going to come in. The responsibility is now on us as Muslims who have this message from these prophets. We have all these stories, we have all of the knowledge, and now it is about what are you doing with that knowledge. And so when I think of the idea of us being torchbearers and us upholding the legacy of all of the prophets, but then of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the final Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions, when it comes to the state of the world today, are we upholding this legacy? And really the first thing that we have to do when we think about how are we going to uphold this legacy is we need to look at what is this current condition of humanity right now. What is the state of the world right now? If the Prophet ﷺ, they, like when you're in Quran class or religious circles, they're like, what if the Prophet was here? How would you act, right? Well, let me take that even further. Like, if the Prophet ﷺ was here today, what would he be doing? What would the problems be that we would be addressing? And we live in the United States of America, where we know we have problems with racism. And we know we have problems with monetary corruption. And we know that actually we are living in we're living in this land where we actually have luxury, where we have all of these material things, and this is coming at the expense of other people in this world. If you eat a strawberry, right, you didn't go and pick that strawberry. This is like where the state of the world is at today, right? You just get that and it comes to you. But there was a system of people who got that to your table, right? There were the people who were picking it who probably get paid a couple of cents an hour. There were the people who were transporting it. There were the people who are driving it to you, who are selling it in your groceries right now. Maybe the people who are selling it to you are immigrants who came over borders, right, to survive. And those are the people who are selling your strawberry to you, right, or your food, whatever. So us as Muslims, right, one of the very, very first things that we have to think about when we're thinking about being the torchbearers is thinking about what is that essential message or reason that Islam came to people, or that religion comes to people, and are we actually upholding that? And are we actually making change in society based off of that? Or are we completely blinded by the benefits that we have and just letting other people live this way without us saying anything about it and without us doing anything about it? And is that prophetic? Are we being the torchbearers that way if this is the way that we live today? And it's also a really, really interesting state to be living as a Muslim in the United States. Because in a sense, as a community, we actually feel very victimized and very oppressed in many different ways. We know that there is systematic surveillance of our people. We know that there are deportations happening of Muslims today. We know that there are Muslims in jail today, hundreds of entrapment cases that have happened within the United States post 9/11. There's extreme repression that we're facing as a community. However, the narrative even within ourselves, right? I want us to really, really question, what do we even talk about when we talk about this, right? When we're saying we want to change, we want to fight Islamophobia. Oftentimes, the narrative of fighting Islamophobia is actually not about the most oppressed. A lot of times what we're talking about is somebody said something to me, right? And we're talking about all of these individual cases, like somebody, and actually it's not that they're insignificant, right? Verbal abuse, physical abuse, right? Bullying, all this stuff, that's not insignificant at all. But what the narrative is that if I just prove myself as a Muslim, if I just tell everybody, hey, I have a really good education, and I go to St. Francis, and I'm a whatever engineer, and I speak really, really good English, you should not be racist towards me, don't you see who I am? Or no, we can communicate, right? We're saying this a lot, we're perpetuating this a lot. This is what we even do on social media. We're constantly celebrating, hey, there's Muslim Olympians, don't you know that? Or hey, there's Muslims doing A, B, and C. And that's great. And we need to be celebrating that as a community. And we need to be having these conversations. However, are we getting to the root of the problem when we're doing that? Are we actually fighting for the most oppressed in our society? Or are we just kind of fighting for our status in society and maintaining our place in society at the expense of other people? So that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. And it's something that we need to approach because when you understand the Muslim community, it's like understanding humanity because as we know, Muslims come in every shape and form. We come from every single nation. We come from every single place in the world with all different classes and all different sizes and all different races. And so within our own community, some of us have more privileges than others, and some of us have different experiences than others, and sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse. But like the story of the Sirah, it was that the most low and weak and oppressed in society were given dignity, and the people who had status and lineage and wealth in society were humbled towards their brothers and sisters, and they built this bond and connection with one another that allowed them to have a just society. And when you have a just society, that therefore brings a peaceful society. But you cannot have peace without justice. If there is injustice within our society, then we will not see what peace is like. And if people come to you and just want to talk to you with, hey, let's be peaceful with one another, hey, let's learn how to coexist, well, we can only coexist when all of the lines of oppression or, all of these things that separate us and make us hold power over one another, we're not going to live peacefully until those things are addressed. And it's an insult for somebody to tell you, hey, let's live peacefully together when that person either holds power over you or if you hold power over them, then you're insulting them. And these are just principles that we need to have when we're talking about this idea of being torchbearers and carrying the message over. That Islam is not just about salah, and it's not just about in Salah, by Salah I mean praying, it's not just about praying, and it's not just about fasting. It's not about all of these personal rituals. They are part of our religion, and they are ways that we bring spirituality into our lives, and rest into our lives, and mindfulness into our lives. But all of these rituals are also part of a societal responsibility that we have as Muslims. We have our personal responsibility, and we have our societal responsibility. And in fact, the personal responsibilities are what help us maintain spirituality and strength when we have to now work on our societal responsibility. Because let me tell y'all something, I'm a community organizer and it's not fun, like at all. Working for the community, serving other people, serving with people is often extremely difficult. You have to know and have and embody ideas like patience and humbleness and, etc. Not having an ego, not being jealous of one another. All of these like very, very kind of small things that we're taught about our character are for the benefit of our character, but they're also because we need to be serving our society, and we need to be thinking of the good of people. And so therefore, when I don't have an ego, that helps me realize that, yes, I need to fight for my own justice, but I also have to look at who else is suffering injustice and think about them as well. It has to be removed from the idea of just me. And I can't, because I have a certain status or institutional status or a place in my community, therefore delegitimize other people or throw other people under the bus or push them aside for my own fame or glory or recognition, etc., just for the sake of that and not caring about what they're actually going through. I know these things I'm saying them like very hypothetically, but like if you're an MSA, I'm sure you know what this means, right? Like, we have to learn to give and take, etc. And that all comes from the principles of Islam. When people tell you what does Islam come and teach, right? We always say the Prophet ﷺ came and taught people manners. He came and taught people how to interact with one another. Because when you learn to justly have an interaction with another person, that is an achievement. When you learn to have justice within your family, and y'all know family, there's a lot of injustice in the family, right? Like there's a lot going on within families. If you could actually transform your family, what is stopping you from being able to transform society? So these are a lot of things that inhibit the work and the ideas that we do. A lot of times when we think of Islam, we're just thinking of this personal understanding, and we're not thinking of the societal responsibility that we have as the torchbearers. The Prophet ﷺ came and taught us to teach people about Salah, etc., but it was also for a purpose. And I also wanted to address another thing that inhibits us as being able to do this as a Muslim community. And one part of being Muslim is this idea of Islamophobia. And the fact that for many of us, we actually don't even have a proper understanding of our own histories. In fact, our histories are taught to us in a completely disempowering way. If you ask me what do I know from where I came from, I can tell you all I know is the story of war and fighting, and there's all this backwardness, etc. That's what we know from our ancestry. And what you know about yourself affects how you see yourself. What you know about your past affects how you see your past. And so we are not taught stories of our own achievement as human beings. And by the way, this is not just for Muslims. Blacks in the United States are not taught anything about themselves except that they were slaves. So if that's all you know about yourself, and then you don't know the history of your ancestry and the amazing civilizations that you came from, you will always have this disempowered idea of yourself. What do we know about indigenous people in the United States? What do we know about Native Americans? Like, all we know about them was that they wore like cloths and they ran around and hunted. We didn't know that they had these complex societies that they had all of these beautiful philosophies and ideas and, you know, ways of organizing their lives. We're not taught that. Many, many communities in this world were not taught our own history, and the only idea that we have of life, the only understanding we have is just these recent histories. And often it's a history of our people being oppressed. Sorry, that's my time. Okay. So these are the ideas that we have of ourselves. And what this does to us is that it makes us not be able to see past the systems that we're under. People want to say, hey, let's change the world. Like, let's eradicate racism. If you ask some people, they'll be like, what do you mean? What does that look like? This has been a system that's been in place for hundreds of years. Can you do this? This is all I've ever known. Or let's think of a different way of organizing ourselves economically so that there's not a 1% that's making all of this money and the rest of the people are suffering and living their lives as laborers and consumers for their entire lives. And then we think, if I never saw anything past this, how can I reimagine this? And so the last thing I want to leave you with before I move it over to my brother Cyrus is that when you think of yourself as a torchbearer, when you think of these legacies, then they are the hope that you have to see beyond these systems. Because the story of the Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, was that there were all of these systems in place, and through the proper understanding of the values of Islam and through the proper interactions of people with one another in that really, really common idea of humanity and supporting one another, they were able to take apart all of these systems that were held in place and restore their society to justice. And whether you're doing that within yourself, restoring the way that you think about things, liberating your mind, whether you do that within your family, whether you do that within your MSA or your clubs, whether you do that within your mosques, re-looking at institutions, all of these things are us implementing values to restore justice. We're not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't ask you to change everything in the world. But we all have a responsibility to do the work. And it's not our responsibility to bring the results, but it's our responsibility to do the work in whatever capacity and scale that we have. And we have to believe that by doing it, we can change things. And if we don't have that belief, if we're just going to only know the world in the way that we have come into it and not be able to imagine anything past that, and not be able to reimagine our histories, but also reimagine our future, then we are not holding that torch. We're not thinking prophetically. We're not upholding these ideas of what it means to be a torchbearer and carrying on the legacy. So, inshallah, I'm going to end with that. And I just want to have you guys think a little bit about that. I don't know what Cyrus is going to talk about. He might just talk about bunnies. But jazakumullah khair for listening, and if you have any questions or if you want more concrete things, we can definitely discuss that in the Q&A. Jazakumullah khair.
I have the pleasure of introducing our next guest. She's extremely inspirational, very special. Her name is Shafak. She has Friedreich ataxia, which affects the nervous system, can cause problems with coordination and gait, and but pretty much she's going to introduce herself. So please give a warm welcome to Shafak.
My name is Shafak. I live in a nursing home and suffer from a condition called Friedreich ataxia. My condition is attack from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it had not stopped me from being here to talk to you all today. I love all of you. I love you all for being here. You are all special to me. Today is special because we are spreading a message that must be heard by the whole world. My goal in life are many. Some of them include wanting to study in Islamic Institute so that I can learn more about my beautiful religion. I would also love to achieve good grades in my GD so that I can continue to seek knowledge about that which is beneficial for me in this life and in the hereafter. I wish that we can come together and practice unity and love for one another, just as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us. We must uphold what is just, and we must show compassion and kindness to our neighbor. This means that when we see someone who is oppressed, we are the first to help. When we see a homeless person, we are the first to give food. When we see someone sad, we are the first to help them. Smile. This world is just a test, and this life is so short. But so many of us are distracted. We are so busy with work and school that we forget about the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And we forget to give thanks to Him and to be grateful to Him. And this time, many of us put away our Quran and let accumulate dust, but it is not the value in the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. We will read it, memorize it, and apply it in our life. My message to you is to be selfless, to think about those around you who have less, not those who have more, to think about those that are being oppressed, and to be grateful for the warm home and the fresh water you have coming out of your taps. So be loving, to be grateful. All good that I have said is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and any bad is from myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your attention, and we really hope that you're enjoying the event so far. We just want to let you know there is a hashtag going around. It's MyTorchIs, okay? So if you guys are on Facebook, if you guys are on Twitter, then please do type in some gems that you've heard from today and just say MyTorchIs hashtag, okay? It's on the back of the agendas. Everyone's got an agenda, right? Yeah? Okay, and everyone signed in? No one signed in? Great. You're doing your job. Okay, so we have someone who's going to be dealing with that very soon. And with no further ado, I'm actually going to be doing a couple of poems today, and then we're going to break for the prayer. And it's still popping, so let me try it now. Okay, it's good now, right? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be doing a couple of poems for you, and I really hope that you're able to enjoy it and click your hands away until you get tired. The poems I'm going to be doing for you are, one of them is actually a very new poem, and it's very different to my usual style, and it's inspired by some of my teachers here as well. So I'll be doing that very shortly. And what do we do when we hear a poem? Yeah, that's exactly what we do. Okay, great. So we're also going to, after this poem, we're going to break for the prayer, the sunrise prayer, and then we're also going to have some dinner as well. And then afterwards, we're going to welcome Brother Cyrus onto the stage or the podium, and he's going to be giving us his very insightful talk. So I hope we're able to enjoy that as well. So. Normally, whenever I do a poem, I don't like to be restricted in one place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around, okay? Or just stand away from one place. Be free, right? Okay, perfect. And then hopefully you'll all be able to hear my poem. So my first poem that I'm going to do is called My Struggle. And this poem specifically is quite important to me because we've actually performed it a few times. We performed it on the subway platforms, we performed it in general, just in front of anyone who's willing to really listen, and we got a really good reaction. So I know there's a lot of people who are non-Muslim here, and we have a lot of people who are Muslim here, so hopefully we'll all be able to identify with this. And just before I begin, there's actually a few gifts that we want to give out, okay? So we actually want to give them out. But there's certain things that you have to do to get the gifts. And the things are, we're going to ask you 2 questions, and whoever answers the questions correctly at the end of the talk is going to get the gift. Is that clear? Okay, perfectly. The first question is, what is the meaning of jihad? Okay? And you have to be very, very specific. Okay? Because a lot of people will say that it means this, it means that, but the actual meaning of jihad. And another question is, Cyrus, can you think of another question, please?
That was a good first one. Related to our topic?
Anything.
Or anything at all?
Yeah.
What about what's the purpose of our life?
Well, that's some people might find that as a certain answer definitive, and other people will find it as something else.
Go for the best answer, yes.
But that's again, that depends on what your version of the answer is, because a lot of people might not agree with that. But it have to be actually a specific question for a specific answer. So we have number 1, what is the meaning of jihad? And number 2, yeah? We can come up with later, okay. It's just so you can think about the questions beforehand. But okay, that's fine. So with no further ado, I'm going to begin my poem, My Struggle. Okay. Can you all hear me? Yes. Why do we even, okay. I don't know where to stand. Stand here, stand there. I'll stand here, okay. My struggle. My struggle lies in a heaviness that causes this body to fall into a paralysis as the numbing gnaws at my fingertips and it travels up my neck, which is angled to hang low for the crimes I am accused of. As my veins tighten from the speeding of my pulse and it wraps itself under my skin like a noose that swings with every dread, causing this heart to race and to palpitate, and I lose the rhythm of my thoughts as my mind is now plagued with the pains of the label of terror. My struggle lies in this big smile which is planted behind an elaborate cover-up, behind the bleeding of a bruised face, contoured with the cruel hand of hate crimes. And just a disclaimer, I'm not speaking from the mouth of a defenseless Muslim woman beaten by her Muslim man. I'm speaking from the mouth of a Muslim woman having to deal with the societal norms to believe everything the media feeds to create a new climate of submission through fear against a brand new enemy who just happens to be me, the Muslim. My struggle lies in the destruction of bridges made from the wood that once gave us oxygen to breathe freely, but too much oxygen blinds us and freedom of speech binds us, suffocating me. My breath is taken away and my mouth is filled by words I didn't say. So when they tell me to take them back, I tell them I am empty of the evil you attribute towards me. My struggle lies in fighting hate with love against those who use hate to be loved. It lies in giving you a message of peace. And it begins with you and it begins with me, lowering our fortresses which do nothing but shield our connection. So please, ease my struggle and befriend me. Thank you. Okay. So the next poem isn't as short as this poem. However, it's something which is very personal to me. And it's, I guess you can call it my guidance story. Okay. So before, I wasn't as practicing as some would say I am now, and what really got me to think about the religion a little bit more was listening to the call to prayer. How many of us have heard the call to prayer? You all heard it? If you watched American Sniper, you most definitely have heard it. Have you seen it? That's actually one of the reasons why I wrote the poem. Actually, I wrote the poem before then, and then my friend told me that there was actually it was a show full of propaganda. So what they would do is they would play the adhan, which is a call to prayer, and people would have a very negative perception of what this word is. Now, how many of us have heard the term Allahu Akbar? You've heard it. How many non-Muslims have heard this term? You've heard that, right? And every time you see people on the television screen, they're always shouting Allahu Akbar, holding violent guns or knives and running. But the actual meaning of it is something which is very simple. It just means that God is greater than anything. That's literally all it means. But words can be taken out of context. And hopefully you'll get a better understanding of what the call to prayer is and what it means after this poem. So this poem is called The Call to Success. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillahi wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allah is the most great. Allah is the most great. I was dead, reared in my mother's womb in weakness. There was a rumbling of an untold storm that raged within this whole body as it was introduced to the soul of me. I, in the predisposition to be in the reliance of something entirely, submitting to this bodily plea for survival, and then the burden was dropped. And I greeted this new life upon distress. Oh, how weak you are, mankind. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allah is the most great. Allah is the most great. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I testify that there is no God in truth except the one true God, Allah. And I begin to think to myself that how minuscule of a residence, how minuscule of an existence is in a residence. How minute this existence of mine is in this mini school of a residence where I live my life. So I begin to question the different facets of possibilities for the existence of God. And I find one that deems parallel to reality. For number one, if we were not created by nothing. Number two, if we were not the creators of ourselves. And number three, if we were not the creators of another, then logically there must be a creator outside of ourselves. And this creator would also be the owner, the sustainer, the provider. I mean, nothing is for nothing, so I begin to question who is the creator of everything. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I testify that there is no God in truth except the one true God, Allah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I testify that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his final messenger. Now, every part of this anatomy coincides to find a message of reason and clarity for why I live my life. And then I am having to hold myself because I find something, and my fingers move upon the words which are shaped like perfect notes of a harmony that have resonated over the tongue of man over centuries. And I see a book of no contradictions, a book in the same preservation from the day of revelation, a book which science has only reasserted what was already conveyed. And I look to the one it was conveyed to before it was conveyed to me and to you, and I see a man who is a manifestation of this very guidance, a manifestation of this very book, a man whose footsteps are ever praised, embalmed by those who follow his way. And even in the scriptures before I see his name, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, I testify that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger. Hayya ala salah, come to prayer. And now, These eyelids are beginning to be lifted, and oh how perfect everything just fits together. And oh how elevated is this vision. And I begin to realize that every single thing in my life led these two knees to fall into prostration, for these legs bend with a precision, only to be followed by the bowing of this one head, where it can only ever make one sense. To affirm worship to only one creator and negate worship to everything else. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala al-falah, come to success. And now a revolution, as you might call it, happens in my mind. But this is no political movement, for this does not end on a state, on a man-made map. It ends on a state more magnificent than that, more beautiful and more powerful than anything we could imagine. A place of kingdoms and palaces, more vast than the size of the seven skies, and every single thing between. A place of rivers flowing of honey, milk and wine and water, and only those who have tasted the sweetness of faith in this life can never truly understand. I have found my meaning in life, for I can no longer be satisfied by what this world has to offer. Oh world, you were made for me, and I was made for God. So why would I run to you? And I ran to you before, and you ran away from me. And then I ran away from you, and you ran back to me. So no more with these games, please. For this world is more than mere play. I was dead, reared in my mother's womb in weakness, and now I have found life. Hayya ala al-falah, come to success. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the most great. Allah is the most great. La ilaha illallah, there is no God in truth except the one true God, Allah. Thank you. So as you can see, that one was a little bit longer than my usual. The other one only had to be short, because if you're literally performing on the street, people don't stay to listen, so they just get anything they can, so you just gotta keep going. Okay, so after I've done this poem, I'm just gonna let you know a little bit about who the strangers are, but this particular poem is designed, I think, more for this event, and my teacher, who's actually in the crowd, he's gonna realize that I stole a lot of the things from class. But thank you. It was it's excellent lessons. Okay, enjoy. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Sorry, I'll let you know what the name of it is first. It's called And We Live. I actually decided that just now. The actual poem is 8 minutes long, but I cut it down to only 5 minutes because I know that our attention span is very short and I don't want to bore you. Okay, originally the poem was written in the context of if we had a dictator as a leader. And I mean, seeing as it's voter season right now, that's very, very possible. You know, a lot of the candidates, no, this is actually very serious. A lot of the candidates who are on the platform right now, if they became people who are in charge of this country, imagine what country would become. You know, it's really scary because it's happened before, and before dictators became dictators, they wouldn't tell their plans, you know, they would wait till they became the dictator. But now we have people saying that they'll build walls in Mexico and etc. You know, it's really scary that people can be so open with it. It's like a reality show, really. But this poem was written originally in that context, but I cut off the first part, and I'll perform that some other time when I actually am featuring as a poet and other people aren't wanting to come up and speak after, and there's not food waiting, and yeah, thank you. And I will begin with that. Now, I'm going to use 2 lines from an actual poet. His name is Dylan Thomas. How much of us have heard of him? You've heard of Dylan Thomas? Really? Really? Wow. Okay, so basically what happened was I was talking to my dad and I was asking him for some advice of, you know, some like lines and things, because I couldn't really get the context into my mind. I couldn't really put it into words. And what happened was he began to read some words to me, and he said, the lines I'm about to say, I'm not going to spoil them, and it was about a man who's talking to his father, and his father is about to pass away, he's about to die. And when I found out that's what the actual lines were meaning, it actually stood really powerfully with me. Also the fact that my dad told me it as well. And the words are just very beautiful, but at the same time it refers to so many other things, and so many other people have used it in different ways to give really inspiration and to keep fighting for what you believe in, and keep fighting for justice, and keep fighting for your truth, and keep fighting for the light and the darkness. So with no further ado, I will begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. If those of you who don't know what that means, it means in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most especially merciful. We will not go gentle into that good night. We will rage against the dying of the light. That good night which is enveloped in the dark cover of tyranny, brutal to the blind heart that discerns nothing but gaping black holes wrapped in white robes and pointed hats, who deliver death leading to the absence of their own soul, enshrouded in corrupt systems, human they are no more. But this same night manifests stars that shine so bright, and with every turning of this earth we will rise, and you will keep seeing us, especially on the darkest of nights. And only the clouded minds will fail to see this beauty of one. But one star can light up a world, but many can light up a universe. Because the collective will of the whole is stronger than one man's diabolical stance. Our fall as an empire is not our failure. For our context of living is not in this world. We live with heaven in our hearts and Bismillah in the name of Allah upon our tongues. They may have our bodies, but they will never possess our souls. And even the devil could not take me without my permission. Everything this country has taken in material can be replaced. But one thing that cannot is faith. And let me tell you, if kings knew the peace we felt in our hearts, they would no longer fight wars for silver and gold. They would fight for just a moment's hold of the tranquility within the believer's soul. Taste these sweet, sweet words which reverberate over the lost tongue of humanity. We carry the very marks of the earth they slapped across our frontal temples, in which rests a sacred submission which is never swayed, in a vessel of a body that prays 5 times a day. In a cover contained is the conviction of the manifestation of this very faith, and buried we are seeds that rise from the 6 feet freshly deep soil, and the very pains of tyranny have given birth to the very consciousness they try to destroy, and we live, and we will keep living. And there is no villain without a hero. And don't forget about the one who said, Rabbi Shahri Sadri wa Yassir li Amri wahlul uqdatin min lisani, who asked his Lord to expand his chest so he could speak up against the greatest of tyrants in history, a dictator who tried to kill his own destiny by murdering the firstborn children of Israel. But it was God who put that very same adversary under his own roof, and there too was Pharaoh defeated by Moses. The same way a fire cooled, forbidden to harm the close friend of God. And who is the greatest of friends except the Lord of the 7 heavens and the earth and every single thing between, whose decree is timed perfectly and written is a victory that will be ours inevitably. But in order to fall, in order to rise, we must fall. And it is not how we fall, but it is how we rise again that defines us. Oppression. Oppression only makes the oppressed a weapon for justice. And found is the woman and the man who is aggrieved, for indeed there is no veil between the prayer of the oppressed one and their Lord. There is no veil between the oppressed one and their Lord. Justice manifests upon a cold face of tyranny, waiting for a day that will weigh our deeds upon scales, and not one atom's worth of good and not one atom's worth of evil will be overseen, for indeed God is the most just, and there is no true justice in this world. And there is no power or might save Allah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakeel. It is as if the world has reappeared, a circumstance within my control. Strong men have been brought to their knees in prostration, grounded, and no longer are they enslaved to the merciless reign of a weak man, and freedom lives in peace. And we live, and we will keep living, and there is no villain without a hero. Thank you. Okay, so with that being said, it's only 7:20, so what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go for a break. We're going to eat and we're going to pray, okay? So anyone who is praying right now, please do make your way down. But just before you go, I just want to introduce you to the strangers. Oh, sorry, I keep doing that, don't I? I keep saying something and then forgetting that I had to say something else. Okay, so how many of us are familiar with who the strangers are? Okay, a few of us. Great. So basically we're a project which is aimed at clearing up misconceptions, and we do it through specifically the art of spoken word poetry. We have two branches. One is focused on the spoken word aspect, and one is focused on giving back to the community. And the spoken word one is what we do is we do open mics, giving opportunity to the youth to come and speak what they want to, whatever is what they feel they identify with. And we also do videos, we do performances, etc., etc. And the other branch is called Mercy for Humanity, which is specifically just giving back to the community. We do knowledge circles, which is for sisters only at the moment, just for ladies, and anyone who's a lady is welcome to come. And these have been going on for 2 years. We also do give pamphlets out to people as well, anyone who is interested in finding about the religion of Islam. And we do many other things like nursing home visits, visiting the homeless. So if anyone